Hello, and welcome to Storybridge. I'm your host, Patti Lucia. I'm a teacher and author, and each week I explore how to use the power of story for our personal and collective growth. In the following episode, my guest and I discover how her story of adversity may be her greatest gift. All right, hello and welcome to Storybridge with Patti Lucia. I would like to introduce my guest. Her name is Lisa Clarke. She lives in Toronto, Canada, and you may have heard about some of the things that are going on in Toronto, Canada. Lisa, welcome to Storybridge. It's so good to have you.
Hi, Patty. So glad to be here, and it's really good to be with you this afternoon. How are
Yeah,
you?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited about our conversation, even though it's on kind of a challenging topic, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is.
So what would you like? Well, first of all, Lisa, where are you? What do you do?
Okay, so I'm located in the lovely town of Oakville, which is west of downtown Toronto. It's about maybe 30 to 40 minutes by train. And I work in the airline industry. I actually moved here from the beautiful island of Barbados in 2015. And, everybody that I've met has said, why the heck did you leave an island to come to some place like Canada? And, it's just a simple explanation. I've always had the citizenship. I've just never explored it. And I thought that in 2015, the time was now. It was like now or never. And I never expected to be here this long and have survived, and now my friends say, oh, you're a full Canadian, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm still fresh off the boat.
So
Yeah.
you didn't expect to stay in Canada long?
No,
It was just a
it was
temporary.
just, yeah, this was just like a trial thing to see, if I got a good job, and, if I integrated really well with society, and if I liked it, and most of all, if I liked the snow, because I came from an island where there is no snow, and I never actually experienced snow or winter. So I had no idea what to expect. And surprisingly, I survived it, and I loved it for the first couple of years until when I started commuting, and the reality of, waking up in the morning at 6 a.m. and it's totally black outside and looks like midnight, and you have to go to a bus stop by yourself, and it's like pouring with snow, and like you're the only one at the bus stop, and there's only a few cars on the road, and you're like, oh my God, I want to go back to the sunshine.
Mm.
That's basically what life is like here in winter. It's quite challenging.
So let's go back to 2020
Yes.
and the beginning of the challenge that the world is now facing. What did your life look like in the first quarter of 2020 when things began to emerge?
Well, I always remember New Year's Eve and being in Nathan Phillips Square and looking at the clock, which is on the Parliament buildings, and just watching the time ticking from 11:55 straight to midnight. And I was with a friend of mine, and we said, "Oh, Happy New Year! It's going to be a great year. We have all these plans. We have all these things to achieve." And then I remember a few days after New Year's Eve, I was talking to my dad, and the first thing he said to me was, do you know that there's a virus in China? And, I thought to myself, trust my father to know stuff like that, because he's that kind of person. And, he said to me, we have to watch this, and it's causing a lot of havoc in China. And at the time, I was like, seriously? Okay, whatever. Like the rest of the world, I hadn't seen it. I hadn't heard anything about it. I didn't even know if it was true or not. And I didn't think anything about it until mid-February when it was announced, on the news, and everybody was like, what? And in Canada at the time, I think we then had one case of the virus. And I believe that was in probably early February. And then, I didn't think anything about it. And then, we just kept following the news. And then one case turned to another case, and another and another. And then they started talking about wearing masks, whether you should or you shouldn't. Then there was the officials on the news every single day. We had these very intense press conferences from, government and the Ontario health associations and stuff. And it started to become real. And as it kept spreading, then people started to get concerned. So by mid-March, I was working in the airline industry at the time, still am. And, this thing became somewhat serious, and nobody knew what was going to be the effect of it. You didn't know if you were going to go outside and you were going to catch it and bring it back into the office. And the one thing that we were always told was to be really careful, because if we brought it back into the office, it could just shut down the entire business. And that's what we didn't want. So I recall in very late March, had to be around March 25th, 26th, that kind of time. I went to the supermarket because there was sheer panic that particular day. The case numbers were really, really high. And everybody just rushed to the supermarket because this was something that was threatening our food supply, or being perceived as threatening the food supply. And I remember speaking to someone at work, and we all had the same consensus: we've got to go and get toilet paper and toiletries, and you better double buy everything. So instead of buying one tube of toothpaste, buy 10, because we don't know if the stores are going to be open, right? So we all kind of rushed out to the supermarket that particular day after work. And I remember being in Walmart and just seeing zero toilet paper. There was no soup on the shelf, there was no rice, there was no like literally canned foods. There was no spaghetti, there was no pasta. The aisles were just jam packed. You could not even get from one end of the aisle to the next. And that point, I thought to myself, oh my God, this is real. Like, there's nothing here for me to pick up. And I started to feel this internal panic coming along.
Yeah.
And the next day I went to work. I gave my story of what was going on in the supermarket. And then our management gathered us and said, hey, we're going to have to come up with a plan for working from home. My job is not frontline. We are administrative staff. And at the time we were told, you don't get to work at home because somebody really needs to be in the office to gather the paperwork in the morning, get it processed. And I remember the three of us in my department thinking to ourselves, we were like, this is crazy. What do you mean we can't work from home? Like, we are, just as susceptible to this thing, and we need to be protected. Some of us have kids. One of my workmates had an asthmatic 4-year-old, and she was like, I'm not coming to work. And then the other one, she had 2 kids. One I think is 13 and the other one was in university, and she's like, I'm not coming either. So then we all had to gather ourselves together in our boss's office and discuss what our life situation was, how we felt, etc. Long story short, they finally decided to send us home. And at the time we did a rotating shift, so we worked every 2 days. That worked until I think late June. And by late June, there was a massive shutdown in Toronto. Nothing was open except the supermarkets and the pharmacies. I started just ordering my groceries online through Instacart. I thought that was like the safest bet. So we had our massive shutdown in 2020. And then because of the nature of my business, we are an essential business. We were called out to work in August 2020.
You were, yeah. I'm sorry, Lisa, but you were in the airline business. And
yes.
Wasn't at some point the airlines kind of shut down, right?
They did, but I'm in air cargo. So air cargo was the opposite. So the cargo was actually bringing in a lot of the supplies for the supermarkets, the pharmacies. At the time, we were given a special bonus for 1 month of coming to work during the pandemic. And that was kind of an incentive because some of us had to take Ubers. I stopped taking the bus because I was petrified. I was like, I don't know who on public transit is going to have this disease. Are they going to sit next to me? Are they going to cough and sneeze? Will I contract this thing? So I had to take an Uber or a Lyft to work, just to feel safe out there. So then the case numbers started rising by the end of October. And then again, we were back home. Everybody just went out during Halloween and did as they pleased. And then the numbers rose again. So from Halloween into November, we saw really high cases. We started to see like 3,000 a day, 4,000 a day. And then, it kind of peaked and it didn't drop off at all. So the government said December 26th, we're going to be completely shut down. And we were shut down from December 26th until basically late May, if my memory is correct. So it was really, really tough in Toronto, but we were called out to work. We did not get that bonus pay that we got in 2020. I had to mix traveling on public transit again with traveling via Uber, and it was really hard. Since then, we have not really had a break. We've just continued working and working. And then things got really intense at work where suddenly there was this policy in place for getting the shot. Okay. That had to have been like early April, because then I went on a short sick leave and I came back in May. The same day that I walked in the office, my boss came to me and asked me, when am I going to get it? And at the time, I started to develop some minor health issues that I was investigating with a doctor. So I explained to him that I seem to have this particular health issue. I have to see a specialist. My appointment is not until late August, and this was April because everybody was backed up. And I'm not going to go ahead with that as yet because I need to know exactly what's going on in my body. So the week after, he came back with the same question and I gave him the same answer. And I was thinking to myself, did I miss something? Did he miss something? Like, I gave him this whole explanation last week and you're coming back and asking me the same thing. The week after that, they decided to arrange for transportation for staff on our floor and the other floor as well, which is finance and reception, etc. So they were arranging transportation for people to go to our other office, which is in Hamilton, right, to get the shot. So everybody did that. People went happily. Myself and there's, I think, 5 of us in total on my floor who said, no thanks. Some people were not interested. Some people were not ready. I wasn't ready because of a health issue.
Right.
There were other people who didn't want to take it because of religious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another person that just said, hell no. Right? So they were all different reasons. So they kept arranging transportation. And then the same question came back at me again. This was like mid-May. And they said, oh, we have a bus that's going tomorrow at 9 o'clock. There's a space on the bus if you're interested. And I just kind of rolled my eyes and I was like, no, I'm not interested. Thank you. The question came back the following week when there was a bus waiting to carry another set of people to the other office. And this was like early June. And the question came back and I was like, seriously? No, right? In, I believe it was mid-June, there were like a sequence of emails that were coming out reminding us that, transportation can be arranged if we so desire to get the shot. And I just ignored the emails because I said, I've had this conversation like 10 times already and I'm not having it again. So then late June came around and I got an email from someone in HR asking me to please provide information as to when and where I'm going to get this shot. And I responded to that lady. I didn't even know her or I recognized her name. And I told her I had the discussion already with my boss. And yeah, and right now I'm not going to get it. Thank you very much. I didn't give her any details about, medical information or anything. And she just responded and said, okay, thank you. So that, I believe that was a Wednesday. And by, I believe the next week, it had to be the Monday or Tuesday, my boss came to my desk and says, oh, I just want to have a quick meeting with you just to ask you some questions. It's nothing big, right? So I said to myself, what now? So when I got to his office, I realized that our director was in his office. And they closed the door, and here came the question again. When and where do I intend to take the shot? They were reminding me, it's for the safety of everyone else in the office. There are people who have put themselves out there to go and get the shot, and that's really, really great, but we need to see if we can get everyone inoculated. And we just want to know, like, what are your thoughts on it, and basically, like, why you're not going ahead to get it. So again, I was like, here comes the conversation again. So I explained that I have this health issue that I'm investigating. My first appointment with my specialist is not till late August. Until that time, I'm not going ahead to get the shot because I don't know what's going on in my body. Okay, no problem. There's no pressure, just letting you know. Now, I thought giving out a little bit more information about my situation would assist me in the matter, but it didn't. And I told them I have this procedure that I need to go and get. And they said, okay, no problem. I walked out of the office and I was like, phew, like, why is this so difficult? So then my other workmate was called in as well, and she got the same question. And, she was a bit smarter because she was a union rep at a past job. And she said, I gave them no information. She listened to them and she said, okay. They asked her why she wasn't getting it. And she said, I will not be responding to that.
Right.
And they got nothing out of her. And then the week after that, we got this nasty email from our CFO. So the email was something along the lines of, your colleagues have had the shot. It's for the safety of everyone else. We have some people who are immunocompromised in the office, and your colleague now feel a bit worried that you are not going ahead to get the shot, and they are concerned about their own safety. We are asking you to kindly provide us with information as to when and where you're going to get that shot. And if you're not going to get that shot, you have to be swabbed twice a week, every Monday and every Thursday. So I asked my boss, what is going on here? What is this testing? So he said, well, we don't really have that information. You need to talk to HR. So I went straight down to HR. At that point, HR then asked me the same question. Well, when are you going to have it and where? It's not fair that you haven't gone ahead and taken it, because now everybody feels that they've done it and you haven't. And now you pose a threat to the rest of the office. So the morning of the swabbing, we were all called down, and I told the HR person, I said, no. So he says, okay, you're refusing? I said, yes. And I sat back down on my desk and I continued to work. 20 minutes went by. He came back and he said, we have another option for testing, one that's going to be a little bit easier for you. Would you like to come down and get tested? So I looked at him and I said, what is it? And he said, the PCR test. Now, in my mind, the PCR test is that long swab that I got in September 2020. And I looked at him and I said, no, absolutely not. He says, okay, so you're refusing. This is the second time. I said, yes, I am. 10 minutes later, I heard them behind me, Miss Clarke. And I looked around and it was the same HR person as well as the company's lawyer. Can we speak to you 1 minute? The lawyer went through this whole dialogue about the safety of others. People have taken the shot. You haven't taken it. We have provided all the means for you to go and take it. You have refused that. And right now you have refused to be swabbed. So the process from now going forward is that we're going to have to send you home without pay until we figure out what is going to happen with this situation. That was July 15th, 2021.
So what did your job status become? Did it become you were laid off? It was a leave without pay. You weren't fired, but what
I was
is
not.
the wording around what your
It
status
was
became?
actually, so that's what I needed to find out. And I made some phone calls and I was told it's constructive dismissal. I had to file a complaint against the company and I'm still waiting for the investigation to actually begin. Okay. So it was constructive dismissal, but I did get some legal advice and I was told that could be a termination because they've changed my contract and they've sent me home without pay. And the lawyer at the time said, that's basically a termination. So I've been home since last week. Today is what? Today is, whoops, I'm just checking my calendar. Today's the
August.
22nd. I went
Oh,
back to work a week ago because the company was calling me around August 3rd. And they said, if you don't come back to work on August the 4th, this is going to be deemed a termination. So I sent those emails over to my lawyer, and she was like, absolutely not.
absolutely not what?
Absolutely not. That's not the right way to go about it. She asked me, well, what are you gonna do? So the following week, I made up in my mind that, I'm gonna have to go back, because even though I filed for unemployment, I still haven't received any kind of notifications from the government or any kind of employment insurance. I was told that it's going to take probably 20 to 28 business days after filing before I could hear anything from that department.
That's not getting a check. That's hearing something from them.
That's hearing something from them. And I haven't heard anything from them. In my soul, I just didn't feel like going back there because there was so much negativity and so much pressure. And I felt like I was going to be harassed again. So that Monday morning, I turned up to work. My boss let me in the building because I no longer had a fob to swipe. I no longer had my work ID card with my picture on it, nothing.
Had you handed all that in?
I had to hand it in.
That does
A
sound like a
termination.
termination.
Absolutely. So I had to call someone to let me in. I called my boss and he let me in, and he said, for now, we're going to ask you to just remain in the lobby until when the nurse comes. And this was 8 o'clock in the morning. And he said, oh, the nurse doesn't come till 9:30. So you're going to have to wait there until when she comes. The temperature that day when I came in the office was kind of cold. I came in and I said, good morning. My boss is a friendly person. It doesn't matter what's going on behind the scenes. He will always show good face. So he was like, good morning. No one came to me to say, okay, welcome back. This is what's going on your desk. There was some paperwork in the corner and some books and stuff that I needed to sign off, and nobody said anything. That first day was kind of difficult because I was just like, God, I don't want to be here. The next day, which was a Wednesday, was the company's barbecue. So they usually have a really nice spread for the barbecue, and everyone mingles, and it's just a good feeling, right? Around 11 o'clock that morning, I got a call from HR, and he says, I need to talk to you. So he showed up at my desk and he says, can we go to the boardroom? So I said to myself, oh, for heaven's sake, what did I do now? So we went to the boardroom. He says, no, we are asking people who have not had the shot to please refrain from coming downstairs and lining up with the other people who've had their shot to, get their food and drinks. We're asking these people without the shots to please stay behind and just wait for everyone to, have their meal and go back to their desk. And then I'll call you and tell you when you can come downstairs.
Wow.
Well, in that instant, I felt like someone kicked me in the gut. This whole situation has changed not just the lives of everybody, but the whole landscape of the workplace. Everything from the people that you used to hang out with. So like right now, I don't even feel like I'm allowed to go downstairs anywhere in the finance or near the HR department unless it's absolutely necessary. And one of my best friends and closest friends actually works in accounts, and she's pregnant. And I feel like I don't think I can go down there and be seen talking to her. And now recently, the government has mandated that all federally regulated employees have to have the shot. So now there's this whole air about in Toronto where in order to keep your job, you've got to have the shot. If you don't have the shot, it's like I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to send you home? Are they going to terminate you with severance? I have no idea. Now, legitimately, there are people who cannot have the shot because of health reasons. How are they going to
Right.
deal with that?
Right. Or what
So
about
because
religious reasons?
religious, exactly, I have no idea, right? So because I work for a federally regulated company, which is like an airline, a bank,
Right.
etc., it's now going to be like mandatory for me whether or not I want it. And now here we go. We're not even frontline workers and we're being forced to have the shot. Right now, I'm rethinking my career moves because I wanted to remain in the airline industry, but I don't want anyone forcing me to get the shot if I don't want to. I
Mm-hmm.
feel now like I'm gonna have to take some kind of a job, where I can work from home and be 100% remote and not have to go to anyone's office, or I may have to take a step down in salary and work like, I don't know, like in a call center and work out
Mm-hmm.
of my house. I mean, luckily for me, I started a small virtual assistance business during the pandemic. I actually got it going, so now this is forcing me to think, okay, do I want to have a mainstream job where, I live up to all of the things that society sets out for us, all these career goals and making a certain amount of money, or do I just can all of that and just, build my virtual assistant business and work from home?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just really anxious about it, and to be honest, I'm here wondering now, should I sell everything in my apartment and just go back to my home country and try to start fresh and find a job there, because I don't feel comfortable anymore in
Mm-hmm.
Toronto.
I think it's really about how do I want to live my life?
Yeah.
How do I want to live my life? What are the most important things in my life?
Peace and
Yeah.
happiness, right?
Yeah.
I want to be peaceful. I feel like I have this dark cloud just hanging over my head, and there's a hand coming out of it with a syringe and a needle, and it's like,
Yeah.
like every day I look up, it's like I can see this hand coming at me with this needle, and somebody telling me, gotta get the shot.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I wake up, I'm going to be really honest, like I have never suffered from any kind of depression. And I actually listened to people in 2020 when they said that, the major shutdowns and stuff made them depressed or made them anxious. It was a total opposite for me. It was a chance for me to slow down and center myself because I'm
Right.
introverted, right?
Mm-hmm.
I loved the stay at home, work from home. I was the most centered ever, just working out of my house and having that extra time to myself and flexibility. And now I'm back to this anxious thing, where I'm always rushing to work and time is of the essence and I've got to get on a bus at this time and I've got to make the train for this time. And now, on top of all of it, I'm like, what you're right. What is it that's going to make me happy in the long run? I just feel like I can't do the corporate world anymore.
Yeah.
Not with this thing hanging over our
Yeah.
heads.
But I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds like you've already answered your question, or in the question about how can you
Yeah.
live, your happiest life. It seems like when the shutdowns happened and you were working from home, you were very quite content with that. And then, of
I
course, you figure
was.
out how to socialize because you want to
Yes.
still have connection with people. And then
Exactly.
as soon as you started going back to work, there was all of this stress and
Yeah.
anxiety and this
Yes.
coercion. And so I think you've answered your own question.
I think I have.
Working from home, I know you have the new business that you've started,
Hmm.
but maybe some kind of combination of that and a work from home job.
That's right.
You
Yes.
see, I'm a teacher, And I live in a place where, I live in Florida. And so in the United States, it goes by state by state. And so Florida, our governor has been like, there's not going to be there's not going to be shot mandates. There's not going to be all of this stuff where,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to, they don't even want to have mask mandates for children. So I'm still okay. You just wonder how long that's going to
Yeah, how
last,
long it's
right?
gonna last? Yeah.
Exactly. But what I've been doing in the meantime is I've been working to eliminate debt so that at some
Mm-hmm.
point, if I need to live on the bare minimum, I can,
Yes.
eliminate
That's
those
the
kinds of
same thing
things,
with me as well. Yeah.
get rid of the debt, get rid of any kind of debt, and figure out how to live as simply as possible
That's
so
right.
that
Yes.
I don't have to feel under pressure. It's like, but I need to work full
Exactly.
time. I
Yes.
need this job. It's like, well, what? No, wait,
No.
I have options. And so that's kind of
Yeah.
where I'm at. And it sounds like there are some similarities with
Oh,
you.
definitely. I wake up every day and I look around my bedroom and I look around my house and I'm like, should I start selling things off one by one so that I
Mm-hmm.
could live a little bit more simply? And
Yeah.
not that I have a lot of stuff. I mean, hey, I'm a female. I have clothes, I have shoes,
Yeah.
and my house is nicely decorated and stuff. And I'm like, do I need all of this? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what can I do to eliminate some of it so that,
Yes.
if push comes to a shove and I need to pack up everything and go back home, right? I want to be able to do so in the fastest amount of time. And
It's
every
so
morning,
funny.
yeah.
It's so funny that you say that because I was just talking to my mother. I have family up in Massachusetts, and I would not choose to live in Massachusetts. I would, if I
Oh
left
no,
Florida, I would live
I
somewhere. I
love
love,
Florida. Yeah.
but I like Tennessee as well. But I was telling her that I have kind of scaled things down so well that if I needed to leave quickly, I could leave in
Mm.
a day and be gone. Like without, I
Oh,
could just pack
wow.
up in a day and be gone because I've minimized so many things. And so
Oh my
I think
gosh.
I think that there's something to be said for that, being able to kind of like have that freedom where it's like,
I
hey, if
know,
I needed to pack
yes.
up and go, I can, and to
I
have,
know.
there's something about that feels
I know.
reassuring.
And the huge problem with me is that I don't have any pets right now, and that's a good thing. But I have a kitchen that's full of plants. I'm a plant lady.
Plant
Like,
person.
I'm such a plant person, and there are some plants that I actually, sorry guys, smuggled with me from Barbados, and and they've grown here and they've established themselves, and they're twice as big as when they were back home, and like I'm so sentimental, like I don't want to release some of them, and I'm like I can't pack a huge spider plant that's like I don't know 12 to 15 inches tall and 20 inches wide. You know what I mean?
You know what? The thing about plants and trees and everything, it reminds me of immigrants who came from other countries.
Mhm.
My grandfather
Mhm.
came from southern Italy,
Mhm.
I think in like 1918 or something like that. And what he brought, and he was not the only one. This was something a lot of Italians did. Figs grew in
Yes.
Italy.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't know if he brought it in the form of a seed or a form of
Mhm.
a cutting, but
Right.
somewhere
Yes.
in his suitcase was a seeds or a cutting of some of those fig trees that he had
Right.
and I remember growing up, and right in the middle of his garden was a fig tree that had come. It was either a cutting, something, a cutting or a seed that had come in his suitcase
Oh,
from
wow.
southern Italy. And there was a whole thing. There are many Italians in New York and different places along the
Mhm.
East Coast who were growing fig trees Now, it's not the best environment in the Northeast, in this climate, not, not in Florida, but like up there, was not the best environment for fig trees, but they figured out how to grow fig trees and how they could survive in the winter and so forth, over the
Right.
years.
Yes.
And on Sunday mornings after church, when the figs were growing on my grandfather's fig tree, we got to go there and eat fresh figs off of his tree.
Oh,
And
that's
it's
awesome.
it's such a precious memory. But
Yes.
yeah, my grandfather could not bring fig trees, but he managed to bring something that he could grow. So
Yes.
whether it's that a clipping or something. And
Yes.
this is what I have to say to you about that. There is something really wonderful when you think about it energetically and so forth, something
Hmm.
really wonderful about taking that little piece of an old story
Yes.
and bringing it into a completely new environment,
Yes.
nurturing it,
That's
watering it,
right. That's
protecting
right.
it, loving it, and
Yes.
watching it grow
Oh,
anew
yes.
again in a new
Yes.
environment. There's something that parallels your story. The plant is paralleling your story. So
It
you've got these
is.
plants from Barbados that are so
Yes.
precious to you, and they've grown in this environment,
Huge. Yes. Yes. They
and
have.
now you may face a or
Losing them.
well, not so much losing them, but needing
Giving them
to
away.
move to another environment. But is there a little piece
Yes, there
of these
is.
precious
Always.
plants that you could bring
Always.
with you and put in the soil of a pot or the ground and nurture
Yes.
it and love it into a new life, just
Yes.
like your new life in a new
Yes.
place? I think
Yes.
people do this all the time. And so it could be this wonderful metaphor for
Mm-hmm.
beginning again. So you're
Mm-hmm.
beginning again. The
That's so
plant,
true.
the plant
Yes.
is beginning
That's
again.
true. That's exactly what I did when I left Barbados because, well, you don't know this, but I had a huge cactus collection and a huge orchid collection. And I used to belong to the Orchid Society, which is one of the branches of the Horticultural Society in Barbados. And I
Wow.
also belong to the Cactus and Succulent Societies. And people laugh when when I say that because they're like, there's a society for cactus and succulents. And I'm like, indeed there are. And I've entered, competitions and stuff annually with my plants and won trophies and
Wow.
ribbons, and that's something that's always been ingrained with me. And when I was leaving Barbados, there was this spider plant in the living room that a friend gave me, and that friend meant something to me. That plant grew, and I took two babies off that plant, and they were like maybe 2 inches long, and I wrapped them in tissue. I took some of my favorite baby cacti as well. I took some cuttings from a Christmas cactus that I have in Barbados, some ripsalis. I took some dendrobium kikis, which are the little baby plants. And I remember my dad saw me wrapping these things up, and he says, "If you get held at the airport, I don't know you." And I laughed. And I said, I'm not going to get held at the airport. But I mean, before I travel, I know how to
Yeah.
sanitize my plants and how to give them
Yeah.
fungal treatments and insecticide,
Of
systemic
course.
insecticide treatments,
Mm,
right? So that you're not importing any bugs into the country that
that's
you're
right.
going to. So I think when I unpacked everything, and the first time I landed here, I landed in Burlington, and this beautiful lady called Bev, and Bev saw all these plants in her window, and she came and she says, "Oh, these are so cute. What are these?" And I said, "Shh, those are the plants I took from my greenhouse in Barbados." And I told her how, I belonged to the Horticultural Society at one time, and how I used to set up displays for the Orchid Society in Trinidad. And we used to send cut flowers to Grenada. And, we used to be involved in that heavily. And I said, some of these plants are very sentimental to me. And there are people within, especially in Trinidad, there's a guy that I was friendly with down there, and he was part of a group that used to go to Venezuela. and they used to go to the forest to look for stuff like psychopsis, which is
Mm,
a very rare orchid that grows, like on tree stumps and up in
mm-hmm.
the canopies of the trees and stuff. And they used to bring back a lot of exotic stuff, so some of that exotic stuff I came here with, but with a lot of the other stuff that I really love. There were certain cacti I liked. And then of course, when I discovered, different plant shops around here, well, I went crazy. So now I'm like, how do I get rid of these babies that I've grown to love, and
Well,
I've
the thing
raised
is,
them, and
that spider plant that you have, it sounds like it was very special because it's connected
it
to the
is.
person who gave it
It
to you.
is. That's
And in a
right.
way, if you kept little pieces of it for a new life somewhere else,
Yes.
you could do the same thing in terms of
Oh yes, for
gifting
sure.
pieces of it to dear friends of yours,
Yes.
right? As a way of saying, this
Thank
is,
you.
as a
Yeah.
way of saying thank you and showing your
Yeah.
gratitude, for them nurturing your life in Canada. And so, in a
That's
way,
right. Yes.
it's like, plants are just such, and what we do with plants, is so rich in metaphor. Also, as you were speaking, I was thinking, oh boy, you would love it in Florida.
I do. Oh my gosh. My family lives in Melbourne, Florida, and they're always trying to get me to come down there. And I'm like,
Why not?
I don't know. The process for a Canadian to move to the States is kind of an extensive process. I would have to go through it.
You could come to the States and then begin that process here.
Yes, yeah.
But
I'm
you
I'm
have
s- I'm considering it because there's something about Florida that keeps drawing me there, because I think it's got that beach culture, like kind of that Caribbean weather,
yes.
and it's got that really nice, there's malls and stuff, so it's like kind of like the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And like the last time I was in Florida, I felt so at home. And I
Yeah.
keep saying, like I could live here. I could live on the West Coast because I love the Gulf of Mexico. It reminds me of the western side of Barbados, the St. James and St. Peter coastline. It looks just like the Gulf. I would love to come to Florida. I
Well,
would
then,
love it.
I
Oh my
see, but
gosh.
but as soon as you started talking about plants and you start
Yes.
talking about Florida, your whole, like, everything
I
changed,
just
everything
lit up,
shifted.
right?
You lit up.
Yes. I love
Your
that.
face lights up, you're
Mm-hmm.
smiling and everything. And so I think it's just so important to, like, pay attention to that. It's like,
Yes.
wow, I just got
Yes.
happy. I just got
Yes.
excited. I just felt a little bit
Yes.
of joy in my heart. So maybe I should follow that joy. Maybe I should nurture that joy, just like the little spider plant or the little fig tree. I
Yes.
should
Yes.
nurture that. And there I go with my plant metaphors. I just can't help myself.
That's fine. I
But
actually
yeah.
started to, I was thinking about it in late 2019, and I spoke to this guy. I can't remember his name, but he helps Canadians move to Florida. And he kind of described the process and sent me the paperwork, and that was late 2019. And then of course COVID came, and like everything on the planet just stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And like I haven't stopped thinking about it since then. And I keep
Mm-hmm.
thinking, well, where is a good place to live? Like I don't necessarily want to be in South Florida. I liked Melbourne, and like I love the Tampa Bay area, Clearwater, and
Mm-hmm.
like somewhere along there. I don't know why I find it very appealing.
Well, the thing is like, having family here really does help in
Yes,
terms of
yes.
landing here. And then from your
Mm-hmm.
landing place, going out and discovering and exploring where
Exactly.
you'd like to be, but at least you have like a little support network, and just kind of follow that
Yeah.
excitement, follow the excitement of
Yeah. I
not
mean,
not so much how am I going to survive the situation I'm in, more like
yeah. How do I start something new?
how do I start something new?
Mm-hmm.
And even releasing things can be a really beautiful thing. Like that spider plant,
Mm-hmm.
the beautiful
Oh
people and the
no.
people you love so much, having a little piece of that, you're taking part of it
Mm-hmm.
to start
Yeah.
again, and
Yeah.
you're gifting pieces of it to some of the precious people you have
Yes.
there. So
Yes.
your energy and that friend from Barbados's energy is
Yes.
now
It's
in
still there.
Canada, and it's with
Yes.
you, and it's here, and it's kind of, spreading the love, so to speak. So
Yes.
there's something really beautiful about that.
You've definitely convinced me now. You've made me feel so much better about that.
I know, well, we get really attached to things,
Yes.
but
Yes.
if we can release them to people we really care about and who
Yes.
will hold,
It's like
who honor,
reciprocation. Yeah.
yeah, honor them, respect them
Yeah.
as we did, then there's something really, really beautiful about that. Your story about what is going on in Canada
Oh,
and how
it's
repressive
exhausting.
things have been, it is exhausting.
It's
And
exhausting.
that's not really the way you want to live.
No,
You don't want to live like that. You want to live more joyfully. You want to
absolutely.
live where you are, nurturing and finding joy in
That's
the
right.
living things around you, and the plants, and
Absolutely.
your friends and food and all of this
Mm,
stuff. And if we can't live like that where we are, then we can
what's the
begin
point?
looking and preparing our next journey. And you know what? Even in the process of making the plans for your next journey, for your journey somewhere else, can be really
Mm-hmm.
exciting, because now
Yeah,
now you're imagining your life in another place filled with
that's
the
right.
things that you want.
I can see it clearly. I can see myself at
Totally.
the beach. I can see
Mm-hmm.
myself walking along a boardwalk and talking to people
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
connecting with new people.
Yeah,
Oh, because
and
that's
include
something I
and
miss
include
here.
the image of you and I
Plants.
having a meal in a cafe
Oh,
somewhere.
yes, definitely.
Include that, because
Absolutely.
but you see, but that is what we call
That's
manifestation.
true.
Our emotions attached to these images that you're talking about, those emotions of joyful, exciting, those kinds of
Absolutely.
emotions
Absolutely.
turbocharge our
Yes.
manifestation. That's the energy that pushes our manifestation forward with such velocity, because
Yes.
our emotions are so powerful. So I am excited for you. I know that the situation you're in is very, very concerning, but it's almost like this situation that is so full of contrast is
Mm,
turbocharging your desire for a different life,
for a
and
change. Yes.
and it's kind of like, moving you forward. So sometimes these situations can be catalysts for something really
That's
beautiful.
so true.
And honestly,
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, what I think is this is going to happen faster than you think.
Wow. Scary,
Uh,
scary thought.
that could be an exciting thought, to actually have doors open for you
Mhm.
faster than you thought they were going to.
That is so true. Well, I pray some doors will open somewhere in Florida
Well,
somehow.
there you go. Well, then they will. Imagine those doors opening. What kind of doors do you want them to be? Doors to what?
Nice big wooden doors with a
There you
lovely
go.
round knocker, something in like this distressed turquoise blue. That's my favorite.
Ooh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, something very pretty.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's the thing. One day when you're living here, because you will be, and you have an opportunity to have a place where you can choose the color or the
Of
look
my
of your
doors.
of your front door, you can make it look like that. And that'll always be a reminder of the time
That is
that you
so
were
true.
imagining the opening of a door to a new
That
life.
is so
It will
true.
always
Oh,
be
you,
that reminder. So to appreciate and have gratitude for those
that is
first
so
doors that opened
true.
up to your new life. Yeah.
That is so true. That is so much inspiration you gave me right there. You're awesome.
I'm honored to have heard and shared and to be sharing your story.
Yes, thank you so much.
I think that you're brave, and that you're already on a journey, and this is just what it looks like now, but it's going to, in my opinion, I think it's going to be a wonderful journey for you. It begins with challenges, and it begins with contrast, and brings us down a path that ends up being a wonderful life, because we have traveled from those kinds of adversities. We've traveled from the
Yes, and we
things that
survived, right?
we survived, and we've gotten the clarity about what it is we don't want
In life.
sometimes.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we need that, right? Sometimes we need that kind of clarity, and it's
Absolutely.
like for us to become razor focused
Mm-hmm.
on exactly what we
What
want.
we want. Yes, you're so right.
And I would love for us to get together again in, let's say,
Sure.
like a month or so, because I'd
Okay.
like to kind of like let this
Follow up.
be a continuing
Yeah.
story. And you can do a digital vision board.
Okay, a digital
A
one.
digital
Okay.
one. And if you do a digital vision board, check this out, you could use it as a screensaver on your computer. So every time
Yes,
you
that's
open up your
true.
computer, you are looking at it.
That's
And
true.
because the whole thing about a vision board is looking at
You're
it,
seeing it.
taking it
Yes.
in, looking at it. But
Yes.
I would love us to get together again in another month or so, and
Okay.
for you to show me and all of us, or those, if on the podcast, it's not, you can't see
Right.
it, but in some other places we can actually see this, and we can talk about what's on your vision board and why you put
No
it there.
problem. That sounds really
Yeah.
interesting.
And share in the excitement and the manifestation of that vision board.
Yes, my
Yeah, like you
spider
could,
plant is going to be on that vision
yeah,
board.
you could do like, and the time frame could be like a 5-year, like from
Yes.
now to the next 5 years.
Oh,
What,
right.
you know what
True.
I mean? You could kind of
Yes.
have a certain time frame. I mean, it can be a
Mm-hmm.
shorter time frame. You choose the time frame,
Yeah,
but have
I'll
it.
probably do 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah, do a three. I love the number 3.
Yeah.
A 3-year vision board. So what is going to grow and develop in
Yes.
the 3 years?
I certainly will.
I really just want to hear about like the story that you're creating now. We know what's been happening, and it is definitely a story that is pushing you into the next story. And so
Yes.
I really want to hear about this new story that you're creating. This is life as a human. A lot of times those possibilities they're made possible through adversity.
That's so true.
Isn't that
That is so
that's the
true.
human story, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Lisa, this has been such a pleasure, and
Yes, absolutely.
I'm looking forward to our next conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much.
If you're interested in sharing your story on StoryBridge, or if you'd like help writing your story, visit my website at pattiluciawrites.com. Thanks for listening.